Welcome to the Not Superheroes Gets Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be present for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I am Sean Laurie. I hope you guys are doing well. Remember, before we start, to like, subscribe, tell a friend, listen. And today, guys, I'm excited. I've been working on this for a while now, so I'm glad to be able to get this amazing man, father, husband on here. Joe Rudulph, how are you doing, my guy?
I'm doing well, Sean. Thank you for having me on the pod, man. I'm appreciative and looking forward to chatting.
Yes, sir, man. So, what I like to do a lot of times, I like to do an icebreaker. And I know you have two wonderful children. So, a son and a daughter, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
Okay.
3-year-old son and 4-month-old daughter.
That's dope. So, I want to ask you, and this might be a little hard. So, what is either the first thing you thought of, or maybe just, or it could have been the same. What was your first thought, or the first thing you thought of, I guess, when you first saw your son born and when you first saw your daughter born?
Man, that's a great question. The first thing I thought of when my son was born was, it really was just like a reflective moment, right? Because I was we had been planning on having a family, and it just kind of happened, right? And it happened quick, and I'm just like, man, like I have a whole life to nourish and look after, and I have a little man to develop, and I've never done this before. So you get that fear and anxiety, and you kind of get the imposter syndrome of like, man, like I don't know if I'll be able to handle this. And it's just a real moment. You're just in it, right? And so I'm like, okay, like let me just slow down, take a breath, and just live in the moment. And then my first thought with my daughter was kind of like, okay, I want to make sure that she has everything that she needs to where she won't have to depend on a man to be everything and all things, right? Like it'll be an option for her. So like, what do I need to do now to just like make sure she's set for success?
I like that. That's dope. I thought you was gonna say D1 for a second, but that's
with my boy, I'm not gonna lie. Like when they came with the measurements, they're like, oh, he's 21 and a half inches and 7 pounds and 8 ounces. And my head did legit go to all right, I'm gonna call my mom and I'm gonna see how he measures up against me when I was an infant, right? When I was born. And she told me, oh yeah, you guys are about the same height, you're a little heavier. And so I'm like, all right, like we're off to a good start. We're in the 99th percentile. All right, let's go. But then, it's natural, right? It's natural to kind of go in that headspace.
Nah, definitely, man. I was the same. Obviously, I'm a slimmer dude, but my son was slim. I forgot how he was maybe 7 pounds and like 21. So I was excited too when they said like he's in the 90 percentile. Like, oh shoot!
Right.
Go.
Hey, let's go. Hey, it's a start.
It's a start. Yeah. So I was definitely excited about that. Just like you said, you get a get a little head start on everything. So that definitely is pretty dope, man. So today, y'all, I wanted to talk about something because I actually asked Joe, and he said something which was pretty dope to me, man. And we've talked about this before, y'all. We talked about obviously managing our time, right, being intentional and things like that. But the way that you framed it, Joe, was amazing to me because, you say you actually like you sat there and you wanted to get your time back, and you actually end up coming up like creating your own like manual for it, which I think which I think is a dope idea. I wanted to first ask you though, how do you define being intentional with your time as a father and as a husband?
Oh man, I think there's like two ways of it, right? There's like okay, I'm going to manage every hour, every minute. I'm going to jot down like every second of what I should be doing throughout the day. But then there's a reality, right? There's a reality. It's a complex role, being a father, being a husband, being a provider, showing up at work, thankfully I'm out of I'm on my leave right now, right? But even still, this is more practice for when when I get back into working. But um, so that there was that fold, right? So I think when I think of how do you define it, it's really just creating a framework, right? And just saying,
Mm,
hey, like when it comes to being intentional with the time, it's just the action, taking the step, and just not letting it get on top of you, right? And so, like, you can make it your own from that point as long as you know, hey, base level, let me just create a framework to where I can kind of like ebb and flow with it, design things around it. If I get behind, I don't have to beat myself up about it because I'm still learning in this moment. And so that's how I define it. It's like just taking the first
mm,
step and just saying, hey, today's the day where I'm going to figure something out. Even if it's one thing, you jot down, and you're like, all right, like 24 hours a day. Today, I'm going to clean the fridge. Like, all right, like you could have probably done a million other things. You could have added more to that,
mm.
but hey, you still won one thing, and so then we just
Yeah,
add on top of that.
that's dope. That's dope. Is that so? Is that what inspired you to create like the manual that you made for yourself?
Yeah, what it really inspired me was just conversation with my wife.
Mm,
And as I was transitioning, getting ready to go on my paternity leave, and thankfully with my career, they were able to afford me, 4 months off, right? And that's hard to come by. And the thing I was thinking about was, man, it's just gonna go by so fast. It's gonna fly by. I'm afraid of wasting the time. I don't know I've never been off, for more than 2 weeks at a time. And so I was kind of getting into this like weird headspace, like spiraling out of like,
mm,
oh, like I'm gonna waste this time. I got a
yeah.
million things to do, but I don't know where to start.
Mm,
This, that, and the other. And I legit found myself in a analysis paralysis where I was just like sitting there like, all right, like I guess I don't know where to start, so I just won't start. And my wife's just like,
mm,
have you ever just like jotted down your notes or jotted down something in a planner or just like tried to map out like what the next week's gonna look like? And I'm like, I've dabbled, but I've really haven't really sat down and been intentional about that. And so she actually went and got me a planner, and it has like a journal in it, and it has like goals, different notes you can take. Like this thing is amazing. And so she's like, just start with this and just like make it your own, figure it out. Like I don't know, I can't tell you how it should look, but you're a smart dude, you'll figure it out.
yeah.
And so that's what really inspired me was just like
Mm,
her kind of like holding me capable, I guess you can say, of being
yeah.
able to do it, right? Um, and so that's kind of how it started for me, is just sitting down and just saying, all right, I've got this, and now what do I want this next 4 months to look like?
Mm,
And so I just started super high level, like, hey, I want to accomplish this, that, and the other. And what is that like on a week standpoint, and how do I want to bucket it? And so that's to answer your question, that's what really inspired me, was just my
yeah.
wife kind of holding me accountable to it.
Mm, I like that. So if you can, maybe you got a couple of secrets in there, so you don't have to give all the secrets to your cheat sheet. But what is some of the things that you kind of put? What does the layout look like for that manual you created for yourself? Obviously, everyone's life and everyone's day to day looks different, but for you, what does that look like? What does that setup look like?
Yeah, man. Like, for me, honestly, it started with, um, what have I wanted to accomplish that I haven't been able to thus far? Or what are
Mm,
some things that I would love to kind of spearhead and roll into next year? I get a chance to kind of slow down and start now. And really, it came down to three things for me. It was like health, overall health, right? So physical, spiritual, mental health. Um, the second piece was just time with the family, and not so much just like being physically present, but like having conversations with my son, having conversations with my wife, like seeing what their day looked like, and having them be able to like share what they've learned, and kind of just trade ideas and kind of fill each other's cups. Then the third piece was just like almost, and I don't want to say selfish, but just what's a skill or a hobby that I just haven't been able to um, pour myself into, right? Because
mm,
I'm so inundated with work and things come at you fast in life, and you, obviously, having kids of your own, especially when they're 3 and an infant, you're just like, it's easy to make that excuse of like, oh, like I gotta sacrifice like dad to be last because gotta take care of the kids, right? And so that third piece for me was just like, man, I want to just start working with my hands again. I want to just do like handiwork around the house, start picking up some skills um, to better my career, honestly, like when it
Yeah.
comes to like logistics and operations. And it was like, I just broke it down like, hey, every day I want to read something that's going
Mm.
to either help me with the skill about being more mechanical, I guess. And then obviously with my career, like also want to pick up a skill every day, read something or pour myself into something that's going to help me be a better leader when I do get back into swing of things with my job. So those are my three buckets, and then from there, I just started to kind of plug and play from there on little things I can do every day to hold
Mm.
myself accountable.
I like that, bro. That's honestly what comes to mind too. Is like basically it's like making sure each day you accomplish something, right? Um,
That's it.
and I look at it like I think that's how we're wired too, in a sense. Is like uh, at least for me, I can speak for myself when there's times where, like you say, you have downtime for whatever reason, you know, and it's like, dang, what did I do today? What, so for me,
Mm-hmm.
every day I'm like, I want to be better today than I was yesterday, right? Like that's one of the
Right.
things I literally say to myself every day, right? I want to be better today than I was yesterday, but for that to happen, I need to accomplish something, right? And it could be something
Mm-hmm.
small, it could be something big, but at least for me, so that's what it sounds like for you. And I could be wrong. You can always correct me, but it sounds like that fulfillment as like I'm gonna make sure in these 4 months things was accomplished. It wasn't one of those things because you could easily, like you said, make that. I don't want to say excuse, but I guess in a way excuse, right? Just hey, I have the kids. I just chilled. I just slept. Did what I could. That was it, right? And again, you're obviously bonding with the kids, of course, but you're like,
Right.
okay, I can't bond with them 24/7, right? So what can
Right.
I do in that time?
Well, it's even like when we connected earlier,
Yeah.
and I was like, hey, if I'm going to like what I ended up doing was like, okay, let me just take that first month, like in September, and I'm just gonna not have any framework, right? Like I'm just gonna
Mhm.
just like let life
Just
come
relax.
at me, let the days come, like nothing, so I can figure it out, right, and see what time looks like, and honestly grow the appreciation for the time.
Mm.
So that's what I did that first 30 days. I was like, man, I'll scroll on Facebook here and there, like connect with people. I'll get on the sticks. I've been wanting to play the Ghost of Hiroshima. What is it? The Ghost of Tsushima on PS5. I had bought it
Okay.
like a few years ago and I never picked it up. So I'm like, let me play a little with that. And just like, I'll just see what happens, right? Like, I'm going to be super unintentional with the time. And that was very honestly liberating. Like, I slept, I relaxed, all that stuff. But I was able to figure out in that time of that first 30 days that, wow, even without a plan, I can still accomplish a ton. And so when I rolled into the actual plan, it didn't feel like this crazy lift or crazy pressure. It was like, man, I was already like getting after stuff and activating a bunch, like getting after things, seeing things, doing them in the moment, still spending time with the family. And so when I was more intentional moving into October, I'm like, oh, this is already created the runway. Um,
Mm.
and so that really helped me, honestly. It's just being able to say, all right, like, cool, I'm gonna sit on the couch. I'm not gonna do anything right now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch a movie and just hang out, and that's okay because then that
Yeah.
created like that freedom to just say, you know what, it's okay to like chill a little bit too and relax and have some downtime, just as long as you don't let it spiral out and become, you know, a whole day of nothingness or a whole week and you're looking back like like I've sitting here eating a bunch of junk food, not doing much, right? And so that really helped me honestly. It was like creating that space of knowing even in this month of hey, Wednesday, just have a day, just chill, do whatever you want, like forget the plan, just like kick it. Just know that Thursday you need to get back after it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say to you. You sparked something for me when I was thinking. Because I said, for me, it's one of those things where I want to make sure I accomplish something. But when I look back at it, we are accomplishing something. It just depends on what it is. Is it really productive, right? So it could be like you said, a video game. I haven't played a video. I used to always be in a video game, but I realized I wasn't really I was accomplishing the level or getting my player better on 2K, right? But as far as like, did that really help me? Did that really do anything for me? No, right? I
Right.
maybe finished a show, right? I'm like, yeah, I finished. I watched the show for 2 days straight. Now I'm done. I just binged the whole thing, right? Like, cool. Like, yeah, but what did you accomplish from that, right? Like,
Right.
did it do anything for you? No, it didn't. So, that's for me. Or, right, you literally do nothing, and then what you accomplish now is you actually start messing with your mind, and you didn't realize it. So now you start telling yourself lies, or now you start being anxious or having anxiety, start feeling underwhelmed, overwhelmed because of you just literally doing nothing at that moment. So I wanted to ask you, bro, like, with creating that, has that helped you in any way uh, with anxiety or being overwhelmed, if you ever dealt with that, like being able to really map that out and make a manual for that for yourself, has that helped you accomplish with maybe having less anxiety?
Oh, 100%, man. Like for me, like having that plan, sometimes just putting things on paper will start to calm the nerves and bring you down a bit, right? And being able to like actually get all the thoughts out of your head, because you know how it is, man. Like thinking about kids, thinking about work, you're thinking about future forward thinking. I caught myself the other day, because I'm 39, I'll be 40 in November, and I wasn't having like a midlife crisis, but I started to think like super being like, I'm like, all right, my son is 3, all right, he'll need to be like heading to college in like 14 or 15 years. How much is college going to cost when
Mm,
he's ready to go? Okay, now I have a daughter. She's going to probably want to go to college too. So are we saving up? Hey, I don't want to work forever. Um, I don't want my wife to work forever. So what does that look like? What's that magic number? And I legit started like getting heart palpitations. Like, man, like, all right, let me
yeah,
pull up all this stuff and pull up the bank accounts, the savings accounts, da da da. Like, you know what? Like, all right, like I'm working myself up. So let me just like put all these goals on the paper. Like, all right, like son's college, daughter's college, retirement. Um, and then what does that number look like? And
mm,
so I like really sat down and like kind of mapped out some things like Excel and blah blah blah. Like all right, like okay, now what? How close are we now? Like we don't, and I kind of gave myself that grace of like, okay, you're not retiring now, so like,
yeah,
just get all that
yeah,
out of your head. Like it's okay. You don't have the money that you need right now. That's not the point of this
yeah,
exercise. The point is to see what you need to do in the now and how do you activate the family so that we're going
mm,
after one common goal. And so after that, I saw okay, this is attainable, right? If we make a few tweaks, save the right amount every paycheck, and just hold ourselves accountable to a certain spend every month, like this is not that hard, honestly. And so I started to relax. I'm like, all right, like, and
mm,
when you do that, you do start to figure out, hey, we're actually in a good spot. We're actually taking the right steps. You're just getting yourself worked up because you can't see it, you couldn't visualize it, but now that you can visualize it,
yeah,
you feel a little better. And so then I'm able to share that plan with my wife and say, hey, we're activating against it, we're tracking, but we are going to have to make a few tweaks and adjustments just to make sure we can land the plane on the back end because we obviously want to make sure we're living below our means. Again, not like missing out on life, but um, just not like
yeah,
going out and splurging or going out to eat every night, all that stuff. Like that's all easy, like tiny tweaks, but we can just adjust that together. So
mm,
that's where it really helped. And then even outside of just the finance piece, but just and I think I shared this on Facebook the other day, and I feel like we've gotten to this space of just parenting has become like so over engineered, right? Because you can go on Instagram and like don't eat that, don't cook in this cookware, right? Cheerios cause cancer.
yeah.
Um,
Everything
like
causes cancer,
everything causes
supposed.
cancer, right? And you can get worked up, right? And
Yeah.
then it's also, hey, I was listening to this pod and they were saying, oh, like the most formative years of any kid is from 0 to 3, and like if you if you miss 3, the boat is sailed, like
It's
that
over.
kid's personality kind of locked in. I'm just like, damn, my son just turned 3. Oh man, like did I pour enough into him? Like, did I let him down? He was my first kid. I didn't know what I was doing. So I just got to the space of like, man, like I'm just letting the outside world kind of dictate to me like how I'm parenting,
Yeah,
right? But anyway, I shared that just to say like with that piece, it was like kind of like you just got to slow down and really
mm,
just write down what makes the most sense for you and your tribe, right? And it
yeah,
might be, hey, like, yeah, we do want to limit the time on the iPad and have conversations about what he's watching, or have conversations about what we're reading, or talk to him like a little adult sometimes, right, as opposed to a baby or a toddler. Um, but that's your choice, right? And so it doesn't need to be
yeah.
this thing of all these things poured in and saying, "Hey, this is the way you need to parent, or else you're a failure." Um, it's okay to take some of those pieces, but make them work for your lifestyle, and don't like hold yourself to this like crazy standard of like, "Hey, this is what this lady said on Instagram, and we're not doing that. Therefore, we suck at parenting." Because it just
Yeah.
puts you in this bad space, right? So um, that's where I just gotten to the point of like, all right, let me just write down what I'm liking, what I'm hearing from certain people about how they parent, or about how they're raising their kids, or how they're spending their time. And then there's some things that I don't think are going to be um, like I don't think we'll be able to do some of these things, right? But there's some things that will work for us, and let's just see what works. I know if it doesn't, let's not beat ourselves up about it.
True, true, man. Now, when you said the iPad or tablet, I've seen that before. Don't let your kid ever be on the tablet. Don't. So technically, I guess I'm a bad parent now. So,
Right. Man, I'll crack out that tablet, right? Like, bro, if you're trying to cook, like you get home trying to cook, or you're trying to just clean or do something, right? Hey, take the tablet, right? Now, mind you, I'm still gonna make sure it's not like, you know how YouTube can get, like sometimes YouTube you'll start with like something that you're like, all right, this is Miss Monica, right? Miss Monica is gonna talk about ABCs and how to
yeah,
pronunciate and da 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 da. And the next thing you know, you're hearing like some crazy, like wacky, like what are you doing? Listening
like
to
what?
something crazy.
How you out, go to a twerk video? What are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
like I was Megan Thee Stallion all of a sudden like teaching you like how to do the, like, how to like make a clap. This is crazy.
yeah,
And so you, and then like YouTube just goes on this crazy algorithm sometimes,
yeah,
right? And it just like starts to
yeah,
go into its own rabbit hole. So we have to be like mindful of that piece. But
yeah, yeah.
that's where I get to the space of like, man, like I don't think that, like, as long as it's not going too far with
Of course.
screen time and all that, like I think it's
Yeah.
okay to like,
As long as it's not like right, like literally the whole day. The
exactly,
whole day
right,
your child's just been getting taught by that, the
right.
whole
When
time. So,
they get to that space where you're calling their name and they're not even, they're just locked, right? They're just in a daze. Like, hey, 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 you still here? All right, time to put the tablet up. All right, let's
yeah,
get back to like actually being a
yeah.
human right now.
True, true, man. What you said too, man. What I thought about because you were saying, as far as like you could, you was kind of like stressing already. Like, oh man, my son's 3, oh my daughter's 4 months, oh man, to college, and you're already thinking of all these things. And I think a lot of that comes from as men, right? We're naturally providers, right? And so in that moment, even though it's so far, and at least most of us, I feel like we like to plan ahead too, right? And so
Right.
just like feeling almost, I don't want to say powerless, but having no control in that moment. Like you said, you're doing the necessary steps now, but in that moment, feeling like I have no control over this. Like, what the heck, right? And so you can start overthinking and overanalyzing where you're like, oh no, I have time for this. So I wanted to ask you then, like, what are some, maybe it's two, three, one, what are probably like the key principles from your manual that help you balance being a father, being a husband, and the part that a lot of times as fathers, as men, because we want to make sure everyone else is good, we forget about, but also pursuing your personal goals. So, what are those principles
Mhm.
that help you with those three things?
Yeah, so for me, it's really just like the tracking piece, and there's like a space for me to write in. All right, Sunday through Saturday, like goals, and I have 3 goals, right? Like it's like the fitness piece, working out, spiritual, meditating, and then like that last piece around like the family orientation and connection, like making sure my ecosystem is good. It's like what,
Mm,
like asking about the day, like just a conversation. I just have like a legit checkbox, like boom, check, check, check. Um, and then again, if I miss a space, the one I'm like non-negotiable is like just connect with the family. There should never be a time where you're not having like genuine conversations. And again, conversation with a 3-year-old versus like your wife is a lot different, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
hey, like what did you guys pay anything today, or and so like that's not going to take a ton of time, but and then towards the back end of the week, I just kind of reflect and just say, all right, what did I check everything off I wanted to check off? If there's still time to circle back and check some things off, let's get that stuff done. And then I just have like a what were you proud of this week moment, right? Like on the
Mm,
back end, like legit that Saturday night, I just have a space where it's like, hey, what were you proud of? And why were you proud of that? So you just take those notes. Hey, this is what I was proud of this week. I worked out 4 times this week, or I cooked dinner for the family, or I saved some space on the back end for my wife and I to just have like our own time to have a glass of wine and enjoy our favorite show. And then I have a space of were there any opportunities that you want to close gaps on next week, right? Like what
mm,
gaps are there to close for next week? And it could be I had a goal of going to the gym 4 times, only went 3. Hey, why
yeah.
was that? Hey, what got in the way, right? It's not to beat yourself up, but it's just like so that you can plan ahead, right? On that Sunday night, you can say, okay, could have probably gotten up a little earlier on Tuesday, or I probably got into a space where I worked on a project too long. And so let me make sure like I'm being very intentional with that time and just setting a limit and just saying, hey, I got to get this hour in at the gym.
Mm,
Um, and so that's like really how I kind of like frame it up,
yeah.
how I find that success.
That's dope. I like that, bro. So, what would you say then, or no, I should say, how do you? I guess I got two more questions for you. So the second to last one is, how do you handle, I guess, setbacks or distractions when trying to be intentional with your time? Like, is it more so you make sure you stay strictly with the manual, or like, yeah, how does that look? What does that look like, bro? Like, how do you handle? Because obviously, right, we like you said, I think in the beginning is like we have a plan, but sometimes things happen. So how do you
Hmm.
handle those setbacks or distractions, or have you not even necessarily dealt with it yet? Because obviously, right now you're on your leave right now. Just having your daughter and things like that.
Oh no, I've definitely dealt with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and even that like I really, I'm competitive, right? Like I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I played sports growing up and college sports and all in the whole 9 yards. And I know sometimes we have our back and forth with the Vikings and the Packers, and it's
Yeah.
always in
For
fun. But it's like, hey,
Turbo
I want to
Packers. I
still,
mean, yes,
yeah,
yes.
man. But it's like it's fun and it's competitive. But I think, and this being a competitor too. Like you get into this headspace of like, oh man, I didn't, like, dang, I didn't check that box. Like I suck. Like what did I, you could get that negative talk, but I
Yeah.
try to flip the script. And what I've started to do in the last few weeks is just like, okay, I missed the thing. Guess what? Just add it to the list for next week, right? And so I've had like this,
Mm,
this like reoccurring thing that's rolling over, right? Where it was,
yeah.
I
Rollover
had this like
minutes.
task, and I was like, hey, what's that? Yeah, rollover minutes, right? Cause I'm like, hey, like, okay, the only person that knows that it was a miss was you. Was it detrimental? No, right? Like,
Yeah.
still here, family still good. All right, so just roll it over into the next week and create some time. Yeah, the list might be a little longer on the things you have to get after, but that's going to make you be more intentional, and it's going to kind of stick in your craw a little bit to where you're like, all right, like I can't miss on this twice, and so it's
Mm,
really just rolling it over, and then like when you roll it over, just roll it up to the top. You say, all right, like this is the top thing since I missed it, and it rolls over. And now it's going to take top priority. And so I had like a piece where it was like something silly, but so I live in front of this school, and it's kind of I'm like the old angry not angry, but I'm the old grumpy man now, right? Like I remember being a kid and like driving crazy in my mom's Mustang, right, top down, 16-year-old, whatever.
yeah.
And now like people are driving down the street crazy fast in front of the school zone. I'm in my house is across the street from the school. So I'm like, man, I gotta call the city and see if we can do something about this and get speed bumps
Now you're the
installed.
grumpy old man now.
I'm the grumpy old man in the neighborhood, right? I'm like, these damn kids is a neighborhood.
Back in
And
my
so I'm
day.
like, back in my day, we would never, like we had respect. and all the meanwhile, back in my day, I was the same kid,
Yeah.
driving crazy through the neighborhood. But so I was like, I gotta call the city, right? I gotta email somebody, and I just kept like that's crazy, that's stupid. No one's gonna listen. And then finally, I just rolled it up to the top of the list. Because I kept saying I was gonna do it, and I never did it. And I finally shot an email out to the city, and I'm like, hey, not for nothing, but this is the street, this is the area code. There's a school here. There's kids playing around, and people are just like screaming through here. So long story
Mm,
short, they end up like actually responding and say, hey, like we want to learn more. We're gonna probably come out and do a survey, and probably do some monitoring, right, of the speeds. So I'm like, okay, like there's some action behind it. I don't know what it's gonna land like, but if I would have just like said, hey, I missed this task. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna roll it over. It is what it is. I took an L. Then who knows? But I was able to roll it over, and now like there's some action right behind it. It's a little thing, but it made me feel good because I'm like, okay, there was something I
no,
didn't
yeah.
land from the week prior that now I'm actually going to hit on this week.
No, that's dope. I mean, now it's crazy because now that you're older, you're basically embracing being a snitch, you know?
Hey, I
Right?
had to do it though, Sean. Like, bro, like if I, man, I don't know what it is. Like, I legit wouldn't have noticed this stuff until I had kids. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy how
so
that happens, huh?
I've been living in this house, before he was born, and people
Yeah,
drive fast. But I'm like, hey, it is what it is, whatever. I don't care. But like, once he started walking and running, especially running, you know how boys are, man. Like, he'll look you straight in the eye and be like, "Yep, this is about to go down." I'm like, oh, come
yeah.
on, man. My knees are hurt. I tweak my ankle. He's like, "Nah, this is about to happen." He'll just take off running. So I'm just like, this fear just drops in. Like, man, he's gonna run in the street. He never runs in the street, but I always think the worst, right? He's
Yeah,
gonna run in
yeah.
the street and someone's gonna come driving by. And so once you have those kids, it's like a whole mental shift. You legit turn into the neighborhood snitch. It's like, oh, the music's too loud. Da, da, da.
Yeah,
So I blame it on that. I think it's something just in
yeah.
us that
No,
just
you
it
good, man.
turns on.
I'm gonna stall you out. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna report you. You're not a fed or nothing like that. You're
Right, right.
just a loving parent. That's all.
Hey, man,
But
I'm just a concerned citizen.
that's
What did
that's
Charlamagne say? You
it.
can't be a snitch if you're not in the dirt, right? Like,
Yeah. See.
snitching is if I'm shoulder to shoulder with you, we're both doing the dirt. I'm just a concerned citizen reporting, right,
Hey,
that
man.
something's
Look.
not
Look. You don't have to
aligning.
justify yourself to me, man. It's all right. All right. You don't have to justify yourself to me. But no. But I want to ask you as we close out. It's I guess it's a two-part question. So, what advice would you give to other fathers that might be struggling with the balancing time and just trying to balance time, right? And then I guess the second part of that question is like how if they because they're like, man, that's a great idea. How should they go about, obviously you can't do it for them, but how should they go about trying to set up their own manual?
No, that's great. I think the first thing is like how people say first thing first, like first thing first, you're first, right? Like without you, um, like just imagine like you're not there for your family, right? You can get into a
Mm,
space where you're not taking care of yourself. Uh, if you're not taking care of your mentals, your physical, you're just not there. You're physically there, but you're not there, man. Like you're in outer space. So like whatever that looks like, the first thing you need to prioritize is yourself, right? Self care,
mm,
self worth. Whether it's just like taking 10 minutes, meditating, starting the day early, just having a little bit of time to create some clarity. Um, that's the most important thing, right? It sounds selfish sometimes, but really, it's like imagine you're on a plane, right? And the little mask drop because the plane's about to crash. They always say, put your mask on first before you start to help everybody else, right? You
yeah.
legit have to put your oxygen mask on first and make sure like you're good before you start to help others, which is your family, right? And so like
Mm,
put your oxygen mask on first and be okay with that. Like, hey, fam, let me get myself together. Boom. All right, I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded. Let's go. Let's get after the day. Um, the second piece is super simple. I mean, just hey, head to the local store, man. Just get a notebook. It doesn't have to be like a fancy smasher planner with everything in it. Everyone has a smartphone. If you're a digital native, right? the smartphone doesn't really work for me because I have to write it out. I got to see it and rip pages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But just find a way for you to note take the
Mm.
things that you want to get after, whether it's on the day, the week, the month, the year, and start small. Like start with a day, right? And say, hey, Friday's coming up. This is what I want Friday to look like. Um,
Mm.
as you get that practice and get those reps, and you might get to a space where you're doing it for the year and you're breaking the year out into quarters. You're just saying, hey, for Q3, these next 3 months, I want to accomplish boom, 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 boom. Um, and then I think even to add to that, just give yourself grace. You're gonna miss on some things. You're not always gonna land a plane. That doesn't mean you failed. That just means, hey, we gotta kind of check and adjust, tweak it a little bit, and then like share your plan too, right? You don't have to go at this alone. We get into this headspace as black man of, oh, I gotta own this 100%. I'm locked in. Like, no, like I can't let anyone down. I got this, right? No, you don't have to. You don't have to have this, bro. Like, you have a family for a reason, right? Like, it's okay to share the
Yeah.
plan, get feedback. Like I said earlier, my wife was like one of my biggest, I guess, biggest advocates and biggest drivers when it came to putting a plan together, right? And
Mm.
without sharing that with her, it wouldn't have happened. So, those would be the piece of advice I would have for anyone that's looking to kind of take these steps when it comes to like being organized and strategic with your time. Is just um, take that first step, take care of yourself. Second step, start to notate and write these things down and really bring them to life. There's two things. There's ideas and dreams. There's all in your head, right? I want to do this. That's a dream, right? A plan. I can give you a plan. I can say, hey, Sean, here's my plan. Check it out. What do you think? Give me some feedback. Hey, don't
Yeah.
hold any punches. Poke some holes in it, man. I want to make sure this thing is tight. You might say, hey, Joe, this looks solid. Hey, I think you might have overdone it on Friday. There's only so much time in the day. You might want to bump some of this to Thursday, or hey, is this that important? Can this roll into the next week, right? Or hey, I think this is more of a priority. You might want to put this at the top of the line and pin it. Oh, okay, cool. So that would be the piece of feedback I would have, and I guess like the things I would share with people who are looking to take those steps.
I like that, bro. Nah, that's good, man. I appreciate your time too, bro. I know you got the fam, and I know right now, which is pretty dope that you get this time out to really relax and just really accomplish the things you want to accomplish while bonding, while being with the wifey. So that's dope, bro. I'm definitely happy for you, for sure. I gotta make sure I give you your flowers, man. I like to do that anytime I have a guest, bro. Just again from afar, obviously we don't talk all the time, but just from afar, just seeing your beautiful family, and just seeing, you being the standard, bro. You doing what you're supposed to do for your family, man, and it's beautiful to see as your family continues to grow, bro. So, I definitely appreciate you, man, taking the time out to hop on with me.
Man, likewise, Sean. I gotta give you your flowers too, bro. Like, I think I think I might have shared this with you, but like you are like that standard, bro. Of like just seeing like your intentionality with your family, the way you pour into them, the way you pour into yourself, and it's like this platform you created to just have thought creation, collaboration, idea sharing. There's not a lot of people in this space that are really giving, sharing the stage, right, and kind of creating this ecosystem in this community where everyone can come together and just share ideas and be vulnerable. Um, and so just keep doing what you're doing, bro. Like it's definitely not going unnoticed. I mean, I'm always looking forward to the next drop. And even if it's just like, sending a message like, hey, like the pod is dropping on this day. Just picking up tidbits, whether it's like in the car or on the way to the gym, just popping the AirPod in and just saying, yeah, like, let me vibe out. I was like actually vibing out to you and Maples connection a few
Yeah,
weeks ago.
yeah.
And, Maples is my guy. But it was cool just seeing your guys' like ebb and flow too. So just keep doing what you're doing, bro.
Appreciate it, bro. No, I definitely appreciate that, guys. Appreciate you being on, man. And yeah, guys. Oh, real quick, too, guys. I'm actually, if you're in Texas, if you're in San Antonio, Texas, I plan on putting an event called Fall Father Fest, right? It will be mid-November. I will give you guys more detail soon, but make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. Um, and like always, oh no, actually, make sure you guys like and subscribe, like I said. But as we close out, remember, guys, like always, remember, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. See you guys on the next one.